Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel with myself, Isabella. Thank you so much for the support so far of my channel, and it's so great to see you guys again. As you guys know, I missed a week and I really missed it. I missed YouTube so much. My schedule got a bit out of hand. There's lots coming to balletwithisabella.com. We've got intensives coming up. I'm also traveling quite a lot. I'm so excited. And I'm also planning a summer intensive. And I really want to get your feedback on if you'd be interested in this. If you could comment down below what your age is. I'm interested in giving an intensive to adults as well as vocational students. So I'd really like to get some feedback as to what sort of demand is out there and whether you'd be interested in coming to London in the summer. End of August is the dates, so let me know and I'd love to hear from you guys. So today I thought we'd do something really nice and just chill. Just feel like you're with me, we're having coffee together. Ah, caffeine. Don't you just love coffee? Hang on. I'm going to sew my shoes while I chat to you, and I'm also going to answer your questions. So it's a bit of a Q&A chit chat while we sew. As you know, I wear block. These are brand new. They're so beautiful and they're specially made for me. There's a video about exactly what type of shoes I have. As you can see, it says 110 degrees on the bottom, because that's a sign that the toe is 110 degrees and not 90 degrees. So it kind of pulls me back a little bit, and it's barely noticeable, but it helps really a lot. So let's dive into some questions and then I will prepare my shoes at the same time. Right guys, it's quite a deep question from the get-go. So someone's asked, why didn't I go to Mariinsky? I know, right? Well, basically, you know, my teacher always wanted me to go to Mariinsky, and so did I. You know, when you're in the Vaganova school, it's quite a big dream to go to the Mariinsky, and it's sort of I'm using darning thread, by the way. It's sort of the natural path that is presented in front of you, and when you're doing well in the school, so I was, you know, the best or one of the best in the class, and considered one of the best, you know, the natural way of things is, oh, so I'll go to Mariinsky. And it's definitely something that I wanted. I was unlucky, as you guys know. It's always an achievement when you manage to thread it. I was unlucky, as you guys know, at the time anyway. I think everything happens for a reason. But I had my back injury, and so I had to take, you know, a long time off, and unfortunately that happened within the graduation year. As I've spoken about before, hard times. Although I don't think this necessarily should have happened, and I don't think this is how things should happen, but because of that injury, even though I recovered and I came back stronger than before, I was already cast aside a little bit for the Mariinsky, which, you know, really kind of upset me at the time, because it was something that I really wanted for myself. And it also seemed, you know, hugely unfair, because I'd worked so hard to get back from my injury, and I was better than before, and I'd rushed to get back. I'd rushed my rehab. And so that was why. My teacher was amazing. Irina Sydnikova has trained so many great dancers at Mariinsky, and she fully said, look, you should be going to Mariinsky. It's kind of unfair. There's nothing I can do. You're only not going because you were injured. And unfortunately, because of that happening, you're slightly blacklisted. So I was like, okay, no worries. But having said that, you know, the Mikhailovsky Ballet, where I ended up, they loved me and they wanted me so much. They actually tried to hire me my second year in. They hired me when I was in grade 7. So I joined in grade 6 and they hired me in grade 7. And I said, oh, no. I have so much work to do. I can't possibly come now. But they had kept their eye on me the whole time. And so it's kind of a lesson learned there again, where even though Mariinsky was my dream and had this, you know, big name attached to it, you know, because of what happened, they had said no. Even though in this day and age, I feel like everybody recovers from injury, possibly that should change. It also made me think I would never go somewhere where I wasn't really wanted. And I was really wanted at Mikhailovsky, and they were a group of really lovely people. It's a really nice environment. I was happy there, and I enjoyed my time there. So I've just folded the bottom because I just find it stops it from fraying, and yeah, I'm just going to place the ribbons on now. Moving on to the next question. How to prepare for summer intensives. Before I answer that question, I'll just let you know how I'm sewing. I'm going to sew going in the shoe and then through the ribbons like this. I'm not going for example, and so I've tied a double knot, it's double thread, and then I'm looping in again. What I'm not doing is going out of the shoe and back in again, out of the shoe and back in again. I'm just going through the inside. How to prepare for summer intensives. Be as fit as you can before you turn up, because obviously you don't want to feel completely out of your depth. Make sure in the holiday you're also scheduling a rest. I think, especially if you're not in a full-time school, there is the tendency and the desire to completely fill your summer to the point where you have no time off whatsoever. So make sure you do put that time in. Make sure you've got some nice leotards packed, you've got some good snacks that potentially you love and that work for you. Make sure you've got your electrolytes. Always have plenty of shoes. Make sure you're not going to run out of shoes. That's the worst thing to happen if you're running out of shoes when you're at the summer intensive. And especially consider things like, if you're going to a really hot country, make sure you've got things to make your shoes last longer, like jet glue. Be wary when you're packing the jet glue. I used to pack the jet glue in a plastic container sealed, that you can fully seal up, like airtight, and with tissue around it. So it's not going to leak everywhere. That's not good. So yeah, that would be how I prepare for summer intensive, but also just get ready to enjoy yourself and have fun. How can I, adult beginner, plan my ballet? Conditioning, bar, center, développé, pirouette. If you're talking about, planning a strategic strategy to get those things better, look no further. Regardless of whether you're a beginner or not, if you're looking to improve things, then you definitely need a strategy plan. You definitely need a routine. It's kind of no good just dipping your toe in and out and just picking a class here and there and hoping for the best. Like, it's really pays off to have consistency of training, consistency of classes, and consistency of the correct exercises. Well, what I do at balletwithisabella.com, that's how I'm helping a lot of principal members, because we have the core members, soloist and principal, and the principal members get a strategy plan. I talk to them for half an hour, every month, and then we go through their goals and their needs, and then I put together a plan to help them, and then they follow the plan, and it's proved to be hugely successful, and everyone's getting big results that they didn't have before, and that's just really amazing for me to hear, and that's literally why I do it. But regardless, all my members are given the tools to really help them, and those that aren't principal members can definitely ask which classes I recommend for them, but I would consider the principal membership with me. But do take a look at balletwithisabella.com and message me if you have specific goals in mind, because I can direct you towards the classes I think you should take, and you get a 7-day free trial, so you're welcome to try the classes and see if they suit you. But from what I've heard, they suit a lot of people, and people are really happy with the results. So yeah, you should try. Although I have very good bar work, clean technique, and good balance, I struggle a lot with turns. Interesting. It's difficult because at the bar, it may feel like it's clean, it may feel like it looks good, but potentially, you're still maybe holding the turnout from certain areas that you shouldn't be so much, like maybe your hips aren't working as well. And if your balance is good, that's great. That's one of the first steps. But if your turns aren't good, then there's a bit of a disconnect. Often this can be an issue with coordination. So obviously coordination of turn, and then also finding those muscles immediately, finding the connection of those muscles immediately, and sustaining that connection through the turn. Even though you've got good bar work, and even though you have good balance, if you can't take that feeling of good muscle connection, good balance, like maybe you're at the bar and you can find your balance when you're very still, very calm, and there's time, but you can't find your balance quickly, and you can't find your balance and hold your balance as you're turning, then I do think there's a lack of coordination and strength of muscles to be found and engaged quickly and sustained. You know where you are, you know where you want to be, you know where you want to get to. Good turns. I've got good balance. What's the journey from here to here? How do I get there? I'm going to now think, I've got good balance when I go slow. Now I'm going to do plie retire really quick at the bar. Plie retire. Plie, let go of the bar, balance. Plie, let go of the bar. Okay, now I've got that good. Now I'm going to do plie half turn and find it quick. Now plie whole turn. Now I've got that, I've nailed that when I'm starting a turn easily. Now I'm going to pretend that that turn's in the middle of a combination, so I have less time to prepare, less time to think about it. So now I'm going to do tombe, pas de bourrée, piqué turn, chaîné, soutenu to fourth, got to find the turn. And then you'll find that that will need practice in itself. So it's kind of like strategic practice, strategic, deliberate practice. And through that process, it's like a little, through that process, your weaknesses should be exposed. So it should become more obvious to you why it is that you have good balance, but you can't turn. And it's usually to do with, like I said, the coordination, but also connecting with those muscles quick, but also sustaining that connection. And often you need imagery to help you sustain that connection with things like wrapping the thighs, keeping your hips nice and tall, presenting them towards the wall in front. I talk about this a lot with my students, and it's like, you know, I told this to one of my members, and then he went back to ballet class and was doing like triple pirouettes for the first time, really clean. And so sometimes it just takes a little switch in your head to change things up a little bit and a different perspective. So if you are really struggling and you want just a little bit of extra help, book a private lesson online with me, link below, and I'll help you for sure. All right, I'm talking too much. I gotta sew the other ribbon, guys. Okay, next question. Tips for hops on point. Gosh, nasty. Hops on point. So obviously there are dancers out there, and I'm sure you're listening, where you love hops on point. They're easy. So for me, they were mediocre. When I was younger and I was like 13, 14, I hated them. I could do them, especially if my shoes were rock solid. I didn't feel that comfortable. When I was in school, there were people like Christina Chapran, who's, she's at Mariinsky now, soloist, but she was at Stanislavski. Now she has a beautiful body, and she really struggled. Everybody at Vaganova wore gainers, and they still do, I think, but a lot of them wear Gainer Minden and Grishko. For example, Olga Smirnova, Christina Chapran, who are in the same class, they both wear gainers. Am I saying gainers right? It sounds like I'm saying it wrong. Gainers. Is it gainers? Gainers. Gainer Minden. I feel like those shoes for Christina, who had extremely supple, archy feet, sway back legs, I feel like those really inhibited her from doing hops on point well. With hops on point, we need really, really strong ankles. You've got to do your exercises. Definitely do your feet exercises, your rises, but one really effective exercise, which as well is on in my courses and my point strengthening courses, is just, you know, you're on point, and then you would just pull back in the shoe a little bit, so your leg is straight, you pull back in the shoe and bend your knee, and then so it's like simulating a hopped position, and then you're on one leg, and then you stretch the knee and just stretch the leg. So you're pulling back and stretch, pulling back and stretch. So you're training the ankle and the feet muscles. Because when you hop and when you're on point, I mean, you have so much weight in your foot, you know, more than you're supposed to as a human. But when you hop, I feel like it's even more so. And so you've got to have really, really strong ankles to protect the ankles. So work on doing that, you know, pulling back and pushing up, pulling back and pushing up, and do that daily, so you really gain a lot of strength, and then start to hop. Like my lovely student Luna, who I work with quite a lot, we've been working on, I hope she won't mind me mentioning, we were working on the Dulcinea solo, and Luna's very young. Hops on point are not natural to her, as they were not for me either, and so she'd never really hopped on point before, and she wanted to do this solo, and so we said, okay, well, we've got to work on them. I'd done one set of ribbons. When we started, we could do maybe 3 hops on point, 3 to 4 in the center, and we had, you know, that whole phrase to do. I think it was it's like 24, 32 hops. It's a lot. And so we went down this action plan, working on the feet, working on the ankle strength, doing the rises up and down at the bar every day, the pull back, push over, and then doing the hops at the bar, you know, every day, and then translating it into the center. And now she can do it every time, easily, again and again. You just got to work on it. This is a really cool question. How long is too long to work on a specific step? Well, guys, I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee. Really good question, because I think depends on a few things. Working on a step never stops, because as soon as you stop working on a step, just like as soon as you stop working on ballet class, as soon as you stop doing ballet class, you know, that can suffer. But there does come a point when you're working on a step and it gets to a good enough point that you can leave it alone and then continually work on it within the class itself, and then work on other steps for a while. So for example, if I was working on fouettes, I'm working on fouettes and I start to notice improvement. I start to realize what I need to think about, and then they're going better. And then I think, okay, that's at a better level. I'm also tired now. It's been half an hour since I've been working on this. This is my limit now for today. Like, I don't think I'm going to get better at this now, because there does come a point where you've got to be quite realistic with yourself. Like, I used to practice, as you know, every night at Vaganova, working on specific steps. And I knew that I wasn't going to necessarily perfect something in that time, but what I wanted to achieve was the ability to understand it more and progress it. And once I'd done that a few times and I got more understanding and I was able to get it better, then I would go, okay, that's better, now I can stop for today, especially because if I get too exhausted, I'll just burn out here and it's not going to get any better at all. Work on a step until your level of understanding the step and how to do it has increased, and you can now have more of a structured bullet point like way of thinking about that step. For example, when I do fouettes, I think, okay, I've got to think about my leg being to the side. I've got to think about my right shoulder coming back along with my right knee, and I've got to think about my supporting knee pushing out and my arm holding to the side a bit longer before I whip it in. Keep my back straight at all times. So the bullet points were long, hence why I wrote everything down. After every practice session, I would write all my corrections down in my notebook. I had about 6-7 notebooks that I went through, and they would have all my corrections, because the act of writing your corrections down would make the world of difference. I would never go back into that book and read the corrections again. I never needed to. The act of writing the correction down in my correction book made it go in my mind. It made me remember. So when it came down to actually doing the step, I knew exactly what to think about, because I almost like picture memory, I almost saw the bullet points in the piece of paper without ever having to go back in. So writing down your corrections after you've been coached by your teacher, after they've told you stuff, or after you yourself have discovered stuff in your own practice sessions, is a very powerful tool, and one which I think we should all be doing. So that's something I would definitely do. So stop when you're tired, don't exhaust things. I would say this is especially true when things are going not so good. So let's say you're practicing lame ducks, or practicing, let's stick with the fouette analogy. We're practicing fouettes and they're just not working for us today. And we're trying and we're trying and we're trying, but we're falling over again and again. We're now really tired. We're also losing hope, losing a bit of self-esteem and motivation, and it's just getting worse. Do we A, carry on and push through and try to make it happen? B, leave it and come back to it tomorrow when we're less exhausted and have a clean slate and start again? Or C, is there a C? No, there's no C. Trick question. The answer is B. Leave it, come back again tomorrow and try again. Or, no, there is a C. Do we try a different step if we're still got energy? Do we try a different step and come back to it in 15 minutes time when we've had a bit of a reset with our body? B and C are both options. Yeah, so don't try to force things. When you're tired, it's sort of like trying to force creativity. You can't unlock things and you can't discover things if you're forcing it. You've got to really allow your body to discover it and be in the right mindset to practice, and the right mindset and energy-wise to try again and not get too frustrated with yourself. How do I know if I will be able to have complete turnout? Is there a way to measure it? Okay, I assume you mean flat turnout. Well, what I found really interesting was when I went to the physio when I was younger, when I was like about 13, and obviously my turnout was a bit limited. A lot of hard work has to be done by you, working on your turnout, working on your limitations, really working on connecting with it. And you can definitely do things towards that. However, to get a sort of more medical and scientific opinion, it is quite good to go to a physio, because they can at least tell you whether your hip joint itself has the capabilities of really increasing to a level of flat turnout. Because yeah, some hip joints and hip sockets are not fully capable of having that kind of flat turnout and that kind of range. But for me, for example, even my hip joints are not like completely flat, completely turned out. I mean, there were people in the Vaganova school who obviously don't have hip joints like that. So obviously when we plie, real flat turnout from the hips and the whole leg is when, your hip joints are so open that when you plie, your knees are very much directly over the toes, and the line is very clear. For a lot of dancers don't actually have that. We have very, very good turnout, and it seems flat because, we're working the whole leg, but the joint itself is not completely flat. Like, for example, Yana, I forget her last name, on Instagram, amazing facility. She's completely flat turned out. There are a lot of dancers in the Vaganova school who don't have that kind of range, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful. And it doesn't mean that you won't achieve really good turnout. You'll achieve the best turnout you can. So I would recommend going to a physio so that they can at least tell you, because what happened with me was I went to a physio when I was 13. They said, like, okay, you're at this point now, but your turnout will increase over time. Like, it will. So keep working on it. And at that point, I really didn't believe that. I was like, okay, really? But it was really up to me. Because had I not put in so much work, so much, people don't believe me. I practiced and I stretched for hours all the time. And so had I not done all that work, no way would I have achieved that. So basically, a physio was saying you have the ingredients to be able to turn out more than you are doing right now. But you need to put a lot of work in, because it wasn't natural for my body to just go like this. I wasn't a really flexible child. So yeah, you can definitely go and get it measured. Even if they say, oh, your hip joint's, relatively stiff, like it's not going to open up much, that doesn't mean you shouldn't work on it at all. Like, don't fully accept that, oh, just because it won't open up much, I shouldn't do anything. You can still improve on it, and who knows, they may be wrong as well. Like, you may be able to open it up much more than you think. I mean, people are constantly proving, doctors wrong. So who knows? Just try and work on your limitations. Work on connecting with the right muscles. How do you do a développé side, à la seconde, without straining in the hip? Good question. All the secrets are on my platform. I will tell you briefly here. It's a really interesting topic. And basically, obviously, when you lift your leg to the side, and I became really proud of my développé to the side in écarté, because when I was at the Royal Ballet School, I almost got assessed out, and I almost got chucked out because of my à la seconde, and my écarté wasn't good enough. I mean, it was dire. I've got to find photos. I'll ask my mum. We'll get my mum on here at some point. She'll tell you. But basically, yeah, it wasn't too good. So again, worked very hard at that. Obviously, when you lift your hip flexor gets involved. You're flexing your hip. It's going to work. The problem is if that is used too much. That's when we get issues like tendonitis in the hip, tight hips too. Often that happens when we're lacking a bit of connection with the deep rotators and obliques. So when you lift your leg up, you may find that it wants to go in and then hinge and tighten at the hip. So you need to really train yourself as you lift. That's why I like to put the Pilates ball behind the knee. You can find loads and loads of tips on my Instagram, which is just a taste of what's on the actual platform. But basically, you're here, your knees out. As you lift, you're squeezing up from your obliques. So I like to think about my obliques wrapping around and squeezing in. So as I lift my knee to my chest, I'm internally, imagery wise, trying to almost relax my hip. It's not relaxing completely, because obviously my leg's up here. But the imagery of me relaxing my hip allows my sitting bone to drop down as I lift the leg. Squeeze the obliques and push the knee out at the same time. So we've got obliques working and glutes, and obviously hip flexor as well, but not all hip flexor. So as you lift, knee pushing out, so using your glutes, stomach muscle squeezing, oblique squeezing up, feeling of sitting bone dropping down. Then as you extend, think about a rond de jambe as you present your heel forward and your hip is reaching down. Your oblique is switched on. If you have weak obliques, your développé side will not go up. So you need strong side of body, flexible back as well, lower back with the QL muscle. Make sure that's not inhibiting you. And strong deep rotators. Again, more detail on my platform. Do check it out. 7 days free. Right, guys. So we're coming up to the final ribbon. I'm on the final ribbon. So we'll do 2 more questions. I don't want this video to be too long. Do professional ballerinas still experience stage fright? I mean, absolutely. If you've watched a lot of my interviews with the professional ballerinas, so on this channel we've got Skylar Brandt, Paulina Semyonova, Misty Copeland, amazing women. Especially I remember what Misty said, and it was kind of like, as you get older and as you perform more and as your reputation builds, it sort of gets worse in a way. I think it was Misty who said this. It sort of gets worse in a way because obviously I understand it as, you know, your reputation has built quite a lot and there's then expectation. It gets worse in a way rather than better. I'm sure that's not the case for everyone, but as soon as you're on stage, that goes away. But I think the build up towards it probably, you know, never goes away for anyone. I feel like when the nerves have completely gone away, that's almost not a good thing. I think we should always be just ever so slightly nervous, but never to the point of damaging your performance or, you know, your mental state. Like a little bit of excited nerves. As I remember a video that Olga Smirnova said, it was sort of a feeling of anticipation and excitement rather than fear. When you're afraid, being afraid is a terrible thing, and that's the kind of stage fright that can really damage your performance, so we don't want that. Okay guys, there are so many good questions here. I'm gonna have to do another one of these soon. Follow me on Instagram and watch for the tips and more advice there. We'll definitely do some lives, but there's some fantastic questions here. I can only answer one more because we're approaching 40 minutes or so on the video. What stretches / exercises should I do the 10 minutes I'm waiting before my class starts? Really good question. So 10 minutes before the class starts, now we don't have too much time obviously, but you need to utilize that time really effectively and really well. 10 minutes, we can do 1 minute of each exercise, and let's try to cover each body part. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I want to start by warming up the body. So I'll do some sit-ups, boom, crisscross, crisscross. And I definitely want my turnout muscles switched on. Hip mobility, hip mobility, hip mobility. Inner thighs, turnout, flex, good. 1 minute done. Then let's do some bridges. Let's squeeze the glutes, get the glutes going. Right now, let's lie on our tummy. Crisscross the legs, crisscross the legs. Little upper back lifts, higher back lifts if you're more advanced. Okay, now let's do a plank. Let's get the whole body moving, good. Now we're really sweaty, okay. Now it's time to do our feet exercises, great. Do our feet. Right, we've got 5 minutes, let's stretch out the body. Glutes, box splits, front splits. Obviously, I'm assuming you're a pre-professional, so we can go into splits, stretching hamstrings, calves. Let's do a couple of grand back mons on the floor now that we've stretched, just to warm up, so we're really warm again. So we cooled down a bit when we were stretching. Grand back mons to the front and the side. Stand up, waiting for class. Couple of rises on the leg. Let's do 16 each leg. So you can actually achieve a lot in the 10 minutes. Just make sure you're just hitting all areas relatively quickly, and you should be good to go. So guys, thank you so much for watching this long video today. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'm here to support you. I've been receiving some really amazing messages recently from people saying stuff like, gosh, like I've changed their life. I've really had an impact on their lives. One in particular really stood out to me. One of my members sent the most beautiful message to me and said, you know, not only have your exercises and your classes and your courses really helped me, but also your podcast has helped me mindset wise, and just like the overall combination of the podcast for my mindset and the exercises for my ballet is just like really helping me within ballet class. My teacher's noticing me more, I'm performing better, but also in his personal life, he's feeling so much more confident and just like a happier person in general. He's enjoying life, but also he's got that belief that all the efforts he's doing, all the exercises he's doing are working and they're paying off. Having that sort of mindset, as well as the ingredients and the exercises, the correct ones to help you with your goals, is literally my dream, my goal for all of you. And so to hear that kind of feedback for me is the biggest gift. And so I just had to share that because it really makes my day when someone, especially my members, take the time to share with me. So just to remind you, because we've spoken a lot since the beginning of the video, I'm thinking about hosting a summer intensive. I'm thinking about doing stuff for adults as well as vocational students, but I want to get feedback and to see what the majority of people are interested in, and the majority of what's the age majority and the level majority that you are. So let me know down below if you're from the UK, or if you're not from the UK and you still be keen on coming over for this intensive. I think I would make it really special and different. A lot of detail would go into it. So let me know if you're interested in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you like these Q&A videos and if you enjoyed watching me do my shoes at the same time. These aren't done, I've just done the ribbons. Otherwise we'd be here a long time. But I would also put the elastics on and take off the front as well. And then squish them a bit. We'll do a separate video on that soon. But thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.